Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 201 at scavengerlife.com.
So this episode is going to be a pretty long one, I think. I feel like we got a lot of stuff to cover. So if you have been putting off some like big project or something, or if you've got something that is going to take a lot of like time, this might be the episode to listen to while you do that project.
Right. This is not an episode for a 30-minute commute to your job.
Yeah. We got back from out of town. We haven't listed anything in 4 weeks. So this is our first week kind of like doing full-time eBay again. And again, this is why we love eBay, is that it gives us the flexibility to take off basically for a month and work on other projects. I mean, we traveled. Although we kept selling,
right,
we didn't have to do full-time 40 hours a week eBay.
We had already put the work in ahead of time to list a lot of things, so stuff is selling.
We love to sell on eBay, so it was a really exciting week because we got to kind of get back in. We're going to talk about some experiments we're trying.
Yes.
But, okay, so let's get started here. We just posted our 200th episode last week.
Yes.
Which is, cool. People are like, oh, it's amazing. It's like, for us, it's like these podcasts are just like our eBay store. Like, there's no specific number that's amazing. It's just like, you just got to do it week in and week out.
You just got to put the work in.
Yep. And so it's been about 2 years of posting episodes every single week.
Wow, 2 years.
And there's only been 1 week where we didn't post something. So we do it whether we're on traveling, on vacation, working,
That's
whatever.
the cool thing about stuff like this is you can do it as long as you have your laptop.
Yep.
You're fine. Which I always do.
Just like eBay.
Yep.
And, I feel like, too, these podcasts are... ultimately we do them for ourselves.
Right.
Because this is a way for us, as partners in this business, kind of talk over what we accomplish and what we want to accomplish and problems and how to fix them.
I think what's funny, too, is because we kind of do this weekly recap and the What Sold video, it's almost like you forget what happened. Sure. If you're like, what happened on Monday? I'm like, I can barely remember that, It's kind of funny.
And we just choose to kind of do this publicly, and that's why we post our numbers too.
Yeah.
So we know other people are trying to do the same thing, run these businesses, start these businesses, how to keep these businesses going.
Yeah, troubleshoot, solve problems, so we're not isolated.
And we love to hear other people's opinions, and one of those opinions made a really big impact on us is this past week, and we're going to share that in a little while. 200 episodes, and every week we're getting new subscribers. Like a lot of people find us on YouTube.
Yep.
There's a YouTube, and then there's our blog at scavengerlife.com, and so it's kind of two different groups of people. And sometimes the YouTube people realize that the people are talking over here in the blog.
Right.
And that's good.
That's what we like. We like people that come over to the blog.
But I'm noticing we're getting these as new people, and they come on and to our blog, and they start asking really basic questions, which is cool. Look, we all got to start somewhere, right? When we started this podcast, we always talked about the beginner stuff because that's what we were talking about,
right?
But we're 200 episodes in, so we cannot keep talking about the basic beginner stuff because it would bore the people that have been hanging out with us. So I don't expect people to do this, but if you're new, I encourage you to go back and listen to our old episodes. I mean, if you're just listing and photographing on eBay, these podcasts are great to kind of spend at your time. There's a deep archive, and you could just follow up. And in the beginning, we talk about how to do a lot of things.
Right.
We don't do a lot of how-to these days because we've already done those.
Right.
What we're focusing on now is sustainability.
How do we keep this going, keep it interesting?
Yeah. So it's once you list 500 items.
Right.
Well, how do you stay interested and keep doing that month in and a month out? I mean, we hear from so many sellers who say, I sold at one point and then I stopped, or I did it, I got tired of it, and we understand that problem.
Yeah.
But really, if this is going to if this is going to work for us, then we have to make sure we're interested in this. So, now we're talking about more, techniques to grow a business and how to, and also how to it's work smarter,
Right.
So, like, it's for us, we've talked about, we started out selling, like, clothes and shoes.
Yeah.
$20, $30 was kind of like our target. And now, the past a year or two, we've been focused on, well, how do we find things that sell for more than that?
Yeah.
And we're now regularly selling things every week for, $100 plus.
Yeah,
which is cool.
just because we're searching for those things, and I'm putting those prices on things. It's so silly, but that's part of it, is learning, like, I can put a high price on this, and some people will buy it.
Right. And so if you're brand new and you're trying to find, like, all the how-to stuff, there's so many videos on YouTube that talk about this stuff. You can buy those ebooks. Some of them are just like a couple bucks. None of them are going to tell you any secrets, but they just kind of go through the basics of it. And really,
started.
There is nothing like just starting. Sell an item on eBay, sell another item, and then sell another item, and then so and then once you start doing that, then we probably make more sense because we're talking about how do you manage that day-to-day thing.
Exactly. And how do you have that lifestyle of, this is what I'm doing every day, and what else am I doing? I'm not just doing this to do this, I'm doing this to do other things.
Right. One of the things that I think it was Steve Schultz or someone in the comments said once, it's brilliant. It's like, the thing to avoid is to make a sweatshop for it's your own life, Like, that's the worst thing, is that if you start this eBay business and then suddenly it feels like a sweatshop because you're just surrounded by junky items and you're a listing and you hate everything and
and it's boring. Yeah.
So how do you do this and enjoy it?
Right. Exactly.
Another thing I find that it's new people come on to our blog and they say these things, which is really interesting to me, but it's a losing strategy, and this is something I hear every week.
Yeah.
They say, I'm totally new.
Right.
What should I sell on eBay? So, okay, fine. So people get mad at me because I don't like to answer that, because it just seems like it's too big of a question. So the answer is, okay, you know what you should sell? Gold and silver, pure gold and silver. Sell that stuff.
End of story. You will always sell. It will sell in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's great. You'll make a lot of money. Okay, but
fine.
That's not a real answer, because its question is not specific enough.
Right.
So the answer is more, what can you find? Like, tell me the items that are around you.
Right.
That seem like it has a value that
are
sold.
Interesting to you. Not just. I think also what people do is they think that they need to know something else that they don't know yet, which they will eventually.
Right.
But it's like, what do you know right now? What's interesting to you?
Well, but that's, I think, step 3. So so the next step is what's around you, and most of us who live in America, it's all about Goodwill. Or Salvation Army, or a thrift store, and it's clothes and shoes.
Right.
So that's a really easy thing to find, okay? And then its next thing is what you said is, okay, and what's around you, but what are you excited about?
Right.
So the stuff that's around you, now, what of that is exciting. So if it's clothes and shoes, well, that's still too much of a...
Yeah.
It's too big of a topic.
Yeah.
So it's what part of that is interesting.
Right. Is it vintage?
Right.
Is it contemporary? Is it like college kid style? Like, what is it that you're like, oh, I would buy that, and someone else would, And
I think when we started, our thing was wool coats and leather shoes.
It's really funny. That is like a huge part of what we were buying.
Yep.
Like men's leather dress shoes.
Right.
High quality vintage.
Or boots.
Boots.
Yep.
And vintage
wool.
Vintage wool jackets.
Wool
coats.
Because,
men's and women's.
Because when we started and we walked into a thrift store, there's just so much stuff. And, some of it I just didn't care about. The stuff I cared about were those things.
Yeah.
Were wool coats and leather shoes. And we just bought specifically that stuff. We sold those all day long.
Right. And for years.
Right.
And we got really good at it.
Right.
I mean, that was all we focused on. And then we wanted to focus on other things,
That way, you're starting, or we were starting, and we quickly learned about brands and styles. And then we just slowly started to expand those things we were interested in.
Right.
So we would walk to a thrift store, we'd get any shoes or wool coats that had been there. And then we're like, well, I still have time.
What else
Maybe
is
there's
here?
Something else here. And we just try and
a tub of wool fabric.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so easy, too. It's all about, and that's why we love eBay over other platforms, is they give you the ability to do research. And that is type in a search term, a wool coats.
Right.
And you can do completed items or sold items. And then you can do it from highest to its lowest, and then you can just see how much things sell for and what brands and styles.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can do that for any single item out there. And that's how we learn, and that's the same thing we do today.
Yes.
But if you're starting this, you have to start somewhere specific. And then the cool thing is after you get started, you learn that you can sell anything. I mean, we post a what sells a video almost every week, and you can just see the totally random stuff we sell. Yeah,
and the reaction I get a lot of times, and when I'm videotaping it, thinking of how people are going to see this, I know people are going to be like, "What? You sold a box of pencils?"
Right?
Things like that.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that too, but the cool thing is, when you do experiments and you're like, box of pencils. These are kind of cool looking. I like the way the box looks. It's a cool thing. Let's try it. It works. You do it again and it works. And you're like,
But that's the thing with that box of pencils. That isn't just something we made up.
Right.
We did a research. And if you look right now at a vintage pencils.
Yeah.
Do sold items, highest to its lowest, you'll see there are people who buy pencils and they pay a lot of money for them. So it's not like it's a mystery.
It's a thing.
It's all right there.
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, that's what's amazing about eBay completed items.
Yep.
That you can see what's been sold for exactly how much. And it's a very valuable research tool. If you just have a question or, I saw something at the thrift store, what was that? Should I have bought it? Look it up.
Yep.
And you'll know right away, most of the time.
But I think this is where, when we talk about sustainability, is so important. Because then at this point, if you're finding stuff and listing it and selling it, if you are not excited about those things that you find and sell, you will not be able to continue this for more than a handful of months.
Yeah.
If that,
I mean, which is true for any job.
Sure.
I mean, if you're just like, I hate this.
Yeah, why am I doing this?
Why do it?
So even if you have people say, I can get all these shirts for really cheap, like big garbage bags of men's shirts.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. I mean, if that's exciting to you and you're willing to sit there day in and day out and photograph and list
and measure,
yeah, then that's cool. But if that does not excite you, it would be better to not get those men's shirts,
right,
and look for something else.
Exactly.
Because really, it doesn't matter the potential value of what you find. The only thing that matters is what you're willing to spend the time in to list on
right.
eBay.
You have to be interested in it.
If you don't want to list it, it does not matter if that item's worth $1 million.
Because eventually it's not going to get done because you're not going to want to do it.
Right.
I mean, that happens to me when I have a folder of stuff I have to list. I'll do it. Eventually I'll get through it. But like men's shirts and pants, Jay listed them all because I was like, I'm not doing it.
And I didn't really get excited about it. So really, we don't buy those things anymore.
No.
Every so often we'll get one that we think is cool, but really,
it's rare.
We don't.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's That's the beauty of being an eBay seller. You can pivot so fast. Yeah. You can list all those shirts and be like, never getting them again. They're selling.
Yeah.
$20 a pop.
Right.
But
yeah, but
I'm not shopping for that anymore.
But it's clear in my mind that 2 weeks I spent listing all those shirts and pants, and I'm like, I just don't, it was not fun. It felt like work. It felt like a little sweatshop,
exactly.
And I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
And then we get, like, as new people that come on the blog and, I guess they're looking for, like, inspirational, whatever, encouragement or something like that. And maybe that happens on Facebook or something, but we're not a Facebook kind of community.
Yeah.
And so, I'll say, okay, do this then. Go out and buy these things. And then it's just like a parade of excuses. And if people want us to say that it's not their fault, I mean, I feel like that's what they're looking for. Is they're looking for someone to say, okay, I hear you, I should go out, find this, and I'll list it, and then that will sell. But I have all these problems that stop me from doing that, and it feels like they're looking for someone to tell them, oh, it's okay, it's not your fault.
Well, I think the problem is like, we're not here to be like inspirational gurus. Like, we're here to just tell people what we're doing. Right. Like, this is what's working for us. This is what we're sharing. Right.
And some of the excuses is we hear are things like, I don't have a car that I can drive to a thrift store, Right. Okay, I mean, that's a problem, Yeah. I work full-time, so I really don't have time to go and scavenge, I have 5 kids that I homeschool, so, I only have, a little bit of time, It's my husband/wife is always angry at me for, bringing stuff home, who is not supportive of my business.
Right, right.
I don't have any money to buy inventory.
Yeah, so we've heard that several times.
I mean, if those are your problems, these are deal breakers. There's nothing anyone can say to help you. If those are the things that are going to be continuous in your life, you cannot run an eBay store. And so, as Ryan says, we aren't inspirational, it's gurus. That's not what we're trying to do here.
I mean, I will say I get very inspired by the people who comment on our blog. I think there can be inspiration in other people sharing things, but I'm not here to be a life coach.
Right.
But I see that a lot on the other groups.
Or maybe that's what we are, and maybe my life coach is...
He's the Trash Elf 3000.
Don't sell on eBay, yeah. I mean, that is sometimes it's like Tony Robbins says.
Right.
Cavalry is not coming,
Is that Tony Robbins that says that?
Funny,
that's amazing.
We heard that from
Mark Duplass. Yeah. Okay, but I think...
But, I think that's true. No one's coming to save any of us.
Okay, and I think also I do want to mention why we're bringing this up, because there are so many other people who are life coach, guru, eBay coaches, Amazon coaches, and that's cool. Anybody can do anything they want. But we get this spillover of people thinking that that's who we are. So we're getting a lot of people who are I got an email yesterday from someone. He didn't reply all, so I got it. And he was like, I'm thinking of not selling collectibles, but only selling men's clothes. Do you think there's a market for that? I'm like, there's a market for selling old dirty rugs on eBay. There's a market for anything you want to sell.
Right.
You just have to do it.
And you have to be excited about that.
I mean,
if you're tired
I can't say that enough.
So I think that's so. If you're listening to this, and if you're new and you're wondering about lots of different things, I mean, if you're stuck in some kind of excuses, I mean, if this bus should just drop you off, just get off the eBay bus, start something else, and this bus is moving on for those of us that figure out how to get past all those excuses and just we're selling because it's created pretty good a lifestyle for us,
I think also part of it too is this is a very you have to be very self-motivated to have this kind of a job or a lifestyle, because the work does not do itself.
Right.
You have to do the work yourself. You have to get up and go sit in your office and list.
Right. Or, okay, I mean, here are some things. If you're not excited about spending 8 hours digging around in junky corners of different thrift stores and not find anything, I mean, if that doesn't excite you, then you're probably not a scavenger, because those days happen.
Yeah.
Where we'll go out and we'll work real hard and go to different places.
10 yard sales in the heat and humidity, and it's all baby clothes.
Right. I mean,
like,
if you don't get excited about a walking 2 or 3 miles or more, checking out every flea market stall on a hot day,
digging in their garbage,
and they want eBay prices for the junk, and you walk away with a nothing, then you're not a scavenger. I mean, because those days will happen.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Or like, you know, if you don't want to sit through a whole day or a whole night at an auction where you're getting bid out, by other people because the prices are too high, and you don't, you know, then you aren't a scavenger, because those days will happen. I mean, some days are just not easy.
But the beautiful thing is, there are some days where no one's at the auction. You're buying box lots for $1. Yeah. You're buying silver for $10. Yeah. Like, we've had those days where we're like, nobody's here.
And we could never predict those days.
Yeah, and you're
That's why it has to be a sustainable, continuous process. Mm-hmm. Because it can't be this thing where it's like, okay, I only have 2 hours a week to go scavenge, so I want to go to my local Goodwill. Oh, but it's too expensive. Like, here's what people think needs to happen for them to have a successful eBay business. I only scavenge 2 hours a week.
Right.
I go to this one Goodwill that's really close to, it's my house.
Yeah.
No one else is there.
Yeah.
I'm buying really high dollar items for really cheap. And when I list it on eBay, it all sells really fast. So if those things don't happen, then I have a real problem, you know?
Yeah.
And my thing is, like, that's not going to happen. I've never seen those kind of things all coalesce every single week.
And we've had so many emails of people say, I live outside of this city and I can't find anything. And our whole thing is, you have to have a search radius of at least 100 miles. You have to be willing to, go on the map, take a compass, draw a 100-mile circle, and be like, okay, this weekend I'm going down to, I'm waking up Saturday morning at 10, I'm leaving my house at 9 a.m., driving down to such and such, and just driving around.
But you know what? But you're also planning on having a lot of fun.
I hope so.
Exploring is new parts of town.
I mean, we're like that.
Like, that's what Scavengers is about, is where it doesn't seem like a pain in the ass.
You've built in the time to do those things. That's the whole point.
Yep. The other thing is, this only works if you, for instance, like when we go and buy things and we bring them back.
Yeah.
We lay them out on a floor, and we have so much fun looking through and researching the items. Like, if that doesn't sound fun to you, you shouldn't probably do it. It's almost like I want this podcast to be titled,
"Don't do this."
You should not be an eBay seller, because
that's a good one.
I mean, we love to, for the most part, tackle piles of junk that we've found.
Yeah.
Like, that's exciting to us because I'll see a pile, because I love to make piles.
There are some piles.
And, I'll be like, all right, this is a challenge.
Yeah.
This is take all day long. I got to clean and photograph all this stuff because I know it's going to sell.
Right.
Like, that has to be exciting. I mean, those are full days that I create for it's myself,
Yeah.
And I just put on the radio.
Yep.
And I'm sure, did you do the same thing?
I mean, for me this week, like, we'll talk about what I've been doing. I've been listing. And it's nice to be able to get through the folders, because we have folders of, 20 to sometimes like 40 to 50 items in a folder. And if I can get through folders and put them on my archive hard drive and then delete them, it's so nice, because I'm like, oh, I'm like keeping up with stuff.
It feels good, right?
What was funny is I listed a bunch of hats that you had photographed like the day before. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, I went out of order. I was like, I'm just going to list these. And some of them sold, and we hadn't even put them away yet, like where they're supposed to go, and I couldn't find them. I'm like, oh, these haven't even been put away yet. They're right in front of me.
I mean, the other thing is you have to love shipping.
Yes.
And that's not me in this partnership. That's you.
Yes.
I mean, that's a day in and day out thing.
It is. I mean, some of the stuff is easy, but like I was talking on the blog, I shipped this lamp the other day. I was really cranky about it. I was like, I do not want to do this. This was like, it took me almost an hour to pack this lamp. And it wasn't even made out of glass.
But I guess the good thing about that is, as you buy things and sell them and then ship them, what you enjoy to actually ship may also inform what you're going to buy and sell.
Right, yes.
So, we've heard many people say, I hate shipping glass.
Right.
I'm not going to buy glass
Don't buy it.
And sell glass.
Exactly.
So I'm just going to buy things that fit in a flat rate envelope.
Yep.
That's cool if you can make that work where only things that sell in flat rate envelopes make enough as money for you. That's cool.
Now, I will do a side note on this lamp. We did buy it to use it in our own farmhouse and didn't end up using it. So that's not something I would have bought to actually ship, but I was like, I'll ship it. I want to sell it.
Just as a side note,
it's a side note to the side note.
We would buy something like that and take the time to ship it if it's sold for more than like $500.
Right.
I find like we're willing to put in the effort if it's
more.
For high
yeah,
dollar.
and this sold for $100.
Yeah, $100.
Which is still great, but still,
yeah.
It was like, oy.
So the purpose of this podcast is to document our business to show it works, and it works beyond just the simple how-to.
Yeah, yeah.
So
there's more to it. There's I mean, we're talking about our lifestyle here, so it's just important for us to say these things, not to discourage new people, not at all.
But as new people keep coming to the podcast, and we don't I'd be crazy if I expected everyone to go back and listen to the last 200 episodes we've done. I mean, they're there, they're free, go for it. There's a lot of knowledge in there. But we just I feel like we just need to kind of keep everyone up to date on what we're trying to accomplish here, and the kind of people we're trying to attract. You know? Because, we're all here to get better.
Right.
And so we need to have a level of betterness that we're all trying to get to.
Again, with the English major.
Yeah.
Betterness.
I mean, the other thing, too, is that the only way this is going to work as a business or as a full-time gig for any of us is that if you can obviously have all the great times during the holiday season when stuff is flying off the shelf and everyone's making a lot of money. Yeah. It's almost like anything sells that you put up. It's great,
it's not totally like that, but yeah.
But you also have to handle the quote-unquote slow months, as people talk about, and they're slower than the holiday months, but this is the normal retail cycle, and you have to be able to handle that. I feel like a lot of eBay sellers drop out because they get too sad during like the spring and summertime.
I mean,
it's not the holidays.
You just have to remember there's an up and down. There's an ebb and flow of this cycle. It's just, that's how it is.
And you just continue year to year where it just becomes a lifestyle. I mean, we started 2008, 2015.
Yeah.
We just keep going month after month, and just things keep happening because you keep plugging away at it.
Right. I mean, you cannot forget that you will have high weeks and you'll have low weeks. Like, we'll talk about our numbers pretty soon. I mean, when it is slow, slow, deadly slow, you're just like, what the hell? Yeah. But you're like, I know we're going to have a crazy week at some point. You know, we're not going to go hungry here.
And, we just keep doing it week in and week out, and you'll do it too. And then you just forget that we were once ever employable. It's been so long since we've had like a regular 9-to-5 job that I just can't imagine like what that would be like. Can't you imagine like going to work and having like a supervisor or something? Being in meetings and like them telling me what to do, and then I have to do that. Like those days are gone.
Yeah. I hope they're gone. I hope that.
Obviously, you always got to do what you got to do. Yeah. But, so anytime I look at a big pile of junk on the ground and think, wow, I have to like photograph that and we have to list it. Like, But then I think, oh, but if I do that, then I
don't have to do this other thing.
Yeah.
Jump in the car and drive to a city.
Yeah.
Oy.
But the good thing is, because I don't want to be down on it's new people. This isn't being down on anyone. It's just trying to bring everybody up. Every week we get at least 1 or 2 really nice, cool emails from people who tell us these stories about how they're, I mean, God, it sounds so silly, but it's like they're changing their lives, you know? They're like found out about eBay.
Right.
They found a community of people.
Right.
They're learning, they're selling, you know, they were able to quit their jobs, spend more time with their kids, you know, pay off their mortgage.
Or, you know, we have the people who are just on the edge of doing that. They're like, this is my plan for this year. This is where I'm at. I mean, we get those emails almost every day.
Right.
It's really incredible.
So, you know, and we always encourage those people to get on the blog and share those stories with everybody because, you know, it's good for people to hear that it works.
Yeah, exactly. You know? To get inspiration.
Oh, that's cute.
It is inspiration.
Okay, so let's talk about our numbers.
Okay, so we're done with our rant about our identity rant.
Yeah. So this week, you know, again, we were full-time eBay is this week for the most part. You know, we put a lot of time into it.
Yes, we were.
But, you know, as people say, it was a slow week. We made $842. Kind of. And I'm going to put a star by that because we actually made more than that. But that's $842 in our, you know, in our store.
Yes.
That we've been selling on.
Yes.
And we only sold 24 items.
Oh my God.
I know. So our average price, it was only $35.
Yeah.
I mean, we sold 11 things under $30.
Oh.
So almost half of what we sold was under $30. Like, it would just be like these days where it'd be like, oh, we sold something for $8.
We sold an $8 bookmark. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Now our store is on sale 15%
right.
this whole week. So that has been part of it.
But, I mean, let's talk about that real quick. So, you know, we did an interview with Amazing Taste.
Yes.
Her and her husband sell together, and they sell clothes.
Right.
And they're like maniac clothes people, and they sell a lot. And her thing was, she's always on a perma sale.
She always puts her store on sale.
She'll do a sale for a week, and then as soon as the sale ends, she starts a new sale. Yeah. And she believes that, you know, that like encourages people to buy. And we've done sales before. We've never been impressed. We're like, oh, let's try it again. You know, who knows? We do a 15% sale for the past 2 weeks. I mean, it seems like it's been a while now.
I think it's like a week and a half or something.
And we see no rise in our sales. And so the question is, are people buying because something's on sale, or would they have just bought it anyway? And so, I don't know. If sales work for people, totally cool. Yeah. But we just do not, you know, because to me, my psychology of someone buying is people are not buying because it's on sale. They're buying because they want that item,
thing, you know?
So if they happen to find the thing they want and it's on sale, they're like, cool, it's a bonus. But if it wasn't on sale, I feel they would have bought it anyway. Right. That's just my opinion. So yeah. We like to do these experiments for ourselves so we know we can talk from experience. Right. But, you know, as we say, it was slow, but it's normal for this time of year. Yeah. I mean, that's what we always tell people. Like, you know, I encourage people to go down to their local merchant. Right. Some little small store. I'll walk in and ask them about their business. I'm sure they would be happy to tell you about the ups and downs of the retail cycle. I mean, some stores, it's brick and mortar stores depend on the holiday to carry them through all of these months.
That's why after Thanksgiving it's called Black Friday, because that means, you know, they go in the black on their, you know, profit as opposed to in the red, which means they're under.
So, you know, this is not an abnormal thing for us. It's not like you're doing something wrong, you know.
I mean, and we'll talk about it soon. I mean, I was listing like crazy this week, you know, and still.
But you know what?
Big selling.
We still made over $800. So I'm like, I try and see it the other way. Like, hey, we need to make about $100 a day to pay all of our bills. We made more than that And so,
so we're doing good. We like to make more, but...
And this has been a super slow month. I mean, week for
us.
A
super slow, molasses slow. Things sell, and I'm like, oh, $12.
Also, it just reminds me, a couple things that, we've been on this experiment the past couple of years of trying to find more expensive items.
Yeah.
Or often it's doing better research so we can get items that we can list for more.
Right.
That maybe in the old days we would have just listed it at a lower price.
Sure.
We're trying to squeeze higher prices out of things.
And do make offer, so if it is too high.
And that saves our butt,
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some of the good things we sold that were over $100.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, too, of just what the grind of just selling low dollar items is.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. It gets really...
It's just not exciting. You're like, your phone goes cha-ching, and then you look at it, and you're like...
Yeah. It's like, we sold 5 things today for like $92. It's like, it's like, I think once you start to find items that sell for more than that, it's hard to go back to getting excited about just selling a $20 item.
Yeah, it's tough. Although we do sell a lot of $20
We got to be
items.
grateful for those, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and one thing we had was eBay sent us a message. I'm sure everyone got this. It said that 31% of our items in May were purchased on a mobile device.
That's cool. I wish that I could see like a graph, that they would show me which items sold. Is it all clothes?
Or why I have to wait, because these emails seem to come really kind of randomly, like every 3, 4, 6 months. Like there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or a reason. I wish there was, again, a place like Google Analytics where I could go to every single day and see updated info, up to date of all this kind of info. Who's buying on a mobile phone? What kind of mobile phones? iPads?
I would love...
Androids?
Yeah, what categories sold on a mobile phone?
Right.
What states are your most popular states? What country? I want a map. I want to see, that information.
And I don't want to have to go to Omniture or, sign into, a third-party app
just give me that information.
Where it has to, email me some Excel sheet later on.
It's just...
I want to do it through eBay. I want eBay to do it, and I just want it to be free as part of my subscription.
Yeah.
Maybe it will only be available to people that have
stores.
Subscriptions,
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of our blog. We have a blogger blog, which is owned by Google, and every day you can go and you can look at your stats. They're very simple stats, but you know who linked to you, how many page views for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year. Where are people coming from? What's their browser?
Exactly.
Just interesting stuff. It's good stuff to know. So, yeah, I wish that we had those tools.
I think it's a good feedback.
Yeah.
A loop. All right, so some of the things we sold, it's this week.
Yeah, so one of the things we sold this week was on Memorial Day, which was Monday. It was a holiday in the U.S., and it was a Red Cross training book from World War II. It was from 1945. And what's interesting is it was actually featured on the front page of eBay.
Right.
And it was in someone's collection, someone's World War II Memorial Day Red Cross collection that they had featured on the front page. And what's interesting is it sold in the morning, we're drinking coffee, and this book sold.
$16.
$16. Totally random. I'm like, that's cool that sold. I don't know, random stuff sells every day. And then about an hour later, I got an email from eBay saying it was featured on the front page. I'm like, oh, that's why it sold. And of course,
that's never happened to us.
I've never gotten. We might have been featured on the front page and never gotten an email about it. Maybe it's new that they send people emails about it, which is cool. But what I would love is if some of our high price items were featured. I'm like, oh, a $16 book, great.
But yeah, I bought that at a yard crawl a couple of years ago. Those things where
it's a big community yard sale
where it's like a whole street will have a yard sale.
It was actually a whole county yard sale. It's like a 40-mile yard sale.
That was 2 years ago.
Can you remember what you paid for it?
Oh,
it's probably like a quarter.
Yeah, maybe $1.
$1, maybe.
It's not more than that.
Yeah, so that was cool if that sold.
So something else we sold was a brooch.
Yes, so I sold a vintage Wedgwood brooch. Wedgwood, they make vases and plates and all kinds of stuff since the 1700s. But they do make jewelry, and they've made jewelry for a long time. So this brooch...
It's like a cameo, right?
It's like a cameo brooch, yeah. I believe this brooch was from maybe the 30s or 40s, because I've done a lot of research on the signatures of Wedgwood and on jewelry. And this one, I show it in my video too, you guys will see it. This one... in the 1950s, they started dating their brooches from the 50s to the 70s. And this one does not have a date, and it's older than, contemporary, I could tell. So anyway, I think I bought it at an estate sale for $15, and I sold it for $106.
And it only took about 3 months or so?
Yeah, it took, no, it's 6 months, because I think I listed those in January.
Okay.
So that's pretty good. And actually, I have a lot of Wedgwood jewelry, because I started, really buying it, because I love it. I think it's beautiful. So that was the first Wedgwood piece that sold for me. So it took 6 months, which isn't bad, but I made, whatever, $75 on it. Yep. So that's good.
It's more than 75.
Or whatever, yeah.
So the other thing we sold was, as Aran said, it was a bookmark.
Yeah, a bookmark.
And this was, I think we bought at an auction, got a big box lot, and there are all these books, and I found a bookmark, and it was a MAD bookmark.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yeah, MADD. It only sold for $8. I think it was on sale for,
$12.99, I think.
It was $12.99, but it was on sale, so it sold for about $8.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that's pretty incredible. A bookmark.
Yeah.
A leather
It's a leather book. New in the package.
That said, it just MAD on it.
Yeah.
And the thing I thought was, this is special.
Yeah.
There's going to be someone someday that wants a MAD bookmark.
Either they were involved in the organization, or their mom was, or their, whoever. Because that was actually a whole thing that, it was a big campaign in the 80s.
In the 80s, growing up.
Yeah.
And all those TV ads,
right.
when America, stopped being tolerant of people
driving drunk. It sounds insane, right?
I mean, if you hear the stories about, in the 70s and earlier, where, the cop would pull someone over, the guy's, drunk, and the guy's just just go home. And
just go sleep it off.
Yeah.
It's like Mad Men,
Yeah.
It's before cars had seat belts.
So it's cool. It was just a little piece of history, and, $8 for a bookmark, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Can't you imagine going to a store and buying a bookmark for $8?
Yeah. So another bottle of nail polish sold. So it was a week ago we sold 20 bottles.
So we only have almost 800 more to sell.
But what was cool is that it started selling. Yeah. So that was a good thing.
This again is an experiment, but it's proven to work. It's for us over time. Is that things, when we buy a big quantity of something,
yes,
we'll put it up on eBay.
Yeah.
And it just takes time. It might take 6 months for the first 100 to sell, but then they sell faster. And I don't know if somehow it gets into eBay's search algorithm,
or people link to it, or since people bought it, it goes higher in the something like that.
And then towards the end, we're selling things every week.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, I wish we had more of this stuff. So the thing we've learned is not to dump it, which I think is what a lot of people's instinct might be, is I've had this for 6 months. I have a whole tub of nail polish. Yeah. I didn't need to dump this for 10 cents each.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Hold strong.
We like to be patient.
Yeah.
And that has to do with storage. I mean, we have it stored. It's on a bookshelf.
Right. We may have 800 bottles, but it's just a single 10 cent every month to list it.
It's 5 cents every month.
5 cents every month. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good. So hopefully we'll be selling more of that. We sold a pair of LL Bean boots for $100. That was a nice sale. Actually, we had sold those once before, and someone returned them for item not fitting. The boots didn't fit, but I was confident we'd sell them again, so we sold for $100.
That's a good example of like our bread and butter from the old days.
Leather boots.
Leather boots.
Vintage leather boots.
It's what we got excited about. It's what we would buy, and they sell well.
We still love them, so. And then I said that I sold that lamp. It was this, you'll see it in the video also, this vintage 1970s, 60s or 70s, like eyeball lamp.
Like bright, a yellow.
The thing was 63 inches tall.
Steel.
I mean, the thing is massive, so...
But you know what? So we bought it in like a little junk shop for $10 because we thought we were going to put it in our rental
in the
house.
farmhouse.
Because it's got a good style. We ended up, it didn't really work for what we were trying to do, so we sold it. And it sold to a design center in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, I could not...
That's the perfect
of a better place to buy it.
That's exactly the place we want to sell to.
Like I went to its website, and they sell mid-century cool,
lamps and
stuff.
Housewares, and we were like, oh, that makes total sense. They're going to clean it up, make sure it works, and sell it to someone for like $500.
Like that makes me feel like, oh, we got a pretty good eye.
Yeah, we do. But I would want to have sold that for a lot more. I had $200 on it, and then it was on sale for 15% off, and then I took an offer of $100. So
because when things are slow this time of year, we are willing to take deals.
And what's great about that is it got it out of storage. Yeah. I was like, get this thing out of here. I'll pack it. I didn't like it.
Okay, so what we did this past week.
Yes.
So, full-time eBay. And it felt really good. It felt really fun to wake up with that alarm clock. To like
our
drink
favorite
some
part.
Coffee. Yeah. We're shipping.
Yeah.
I
was like hanging out in the garden.
Yeah, reading
like I like to do.
Reading emails, and then we have breakfast, and then we start our day.
Yeah, we usually start our day. It just sounds so luxurious. Around 11 o'clock.
Right after we've been up for a couple hours and
drinking coffee, shipping. Yeah. I mean, I'll before I eat breakfast, I take my coffee over to my office and pack anything that I didn't ship the night before.
And then you were a listing, and I was taking.
Yes.
Photos, and I did what I said I would do. And last week is we have tubs of shoes.
Shoes, yes.
Of ladies' shoes.
Right.
That we've been putting off.
Right.
And so I've been taking pictures.
And now that sounds like a contradiction because we say, oh, we used to sell clothes and shoes, but we still sell a lot of shoes. I mean.
But, it had been 90% of the store was clothes and shoes. Now, I'd be surprised if it was 40%?
Yeah, I would say 40%. Yeah. Around 40%, yeah.
And, we mainly don't list that stuff so much anymore. Okay, but this is the interesting thing.
Yes.
So we did an experiment this week, and it's going to be an ongoing one.
Right. Now, you had got this idea from a comment on the blog, right?
So, I don't know, about a month ago, I talked about our numbers, and I said that after we hit about 25 items in our store.
2,500.
Yeah, sorry. 2,500 items.
Yeah.
And we have 4,000 in our store now.
Right.
But at about 2,500, our sales kind of stabilized.
Like plateaued.
Yeah, like...
It's not like it's not like the more, not like if you get 5,000 items, you make, twice as much.
We were finding that our numbers weren't exponentially getting bigger.
Right.
And, and I know people, and I don't want to hear people's opinions on it. People say, oh, like, eBay's blocking you or doing something. Okay, fine. I don't care. If someone can prove it, give me scientific info that's interesting, but I don't want to hear. So anyway, an anonymous commenter says something really simple.
Yeah.
He said, why don't you open up another store? And I was like, and we thought about it, and we were in San Diego, and we were taking a walk to Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
And I was like, that comment, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. And you
were like, yeah.
So here's the thing. These are the accounts I have. I have my main account, which I have almost 4,000 items on. We had your account, which you just had from whenever, like, we lived in New York, and you bought a camera or something. That was one account. And then I have an account where I buy stuff completely separate, not, so that no one sees me flipping stuff on eBay if that's what I choose to do. So I took your account and I changed the name of it because I just wanted it to be a new thing, basically like a new account. And I opened a store. There's a basic store, which is like $20 a month. Then there's a...
It's like a premium store.
Premium store, and then there's an anchor store. Right. So I actually opened a premium store, which is $50 a month.
Yeah.
I kind of bumped it up because I was like, you get 500... You get 500 listings free per month. I don't care about that stuff, but I wanted the listing fees to be cheaper and whatever. So I did the premium store, and what I decided was I have been looking at a lot of other sellers and what they do for a template or lack of template, and I was like, I'm just going to do that. Most things that we take photos of are 12 photos or less, mostly less, depending on the item. If it's not a big piece of furniture or a big piece of artwork, there's 12 photos or less. So that means I don't need to host my own photos. I don't need to have a big template with like 25 photos.
I think people might have missed what you're talking about here. So in our current store,
right, and
what we've been doing since 2008 is when we list on our store, we have a template.
Right.
Orion built an HTML template. So we list on eBay, and then in the description area, there's a whole beautiful template where we embed the photos in the
and there's a header, and
it really looks good. It's kind of like an Etsy feel a little bit. And that's what we've always done. And people have always told us, you don't need to do that.
Right.
It gets screwy on a mobile devices, blah, blah, blah. So this was kind of a freeing experiment.
Yeah.
So now, as Ryan is just uploading photos to eBay.
Right.
And then in the description area, you just copy and paste some text that I write normally.
So the beautiful thing is, most of the work is already done because Jay writes the titles and he writes down any extra information. The measurements, any flaws, any cool things about the item that I need to know in like bullet points on just a text document. So I'm like, everything's here already. I mean, not that I wouldn't retype it, but I was like formatting it and whatever. So I'm like, I'm just going to copy and paste this in, like plain text.
And it was kind of a freeing moment.
I was like, I sat down for one afternoon and listed 50 things.
Right.
I was like, this is so fast compared to what I was doing.
And I'm assuming that this is how some of the people on our blog will list.
Yeah.
When they list 400 items in a week. I guess it's like this.
Yeah.
They don't screw around. It's with a template.
And,
and people will say, I told you so. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
That's cool. We loved our template, and we may go back to it, but for right now, we're going to see if this works. There's a seller who we follow because we learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
And he lists, just like, as we say, uploads its photos. He'll put like 5 words in the description, and he sells the craziest stuff.
I mean, here's the thing.
So I guess people don't care.
I learned a lot from him because I was like, sometimes he won't even have measurements.
Right.
I mean, he'll just be like, this is what it is. See you later. Like, smiley face.
But he's got really good photos.
Good photos, yeah.
And he has good items. Like, he's got good taste.
His items are extremely high quality. So that helps. I think with how prevalent mobile is now, because it wasn't when we started. The iPhone had come out the year before. I mean, that just was not normal. So to not have a template, it's a little bit sad because I think it gives us some professionalism. Like, we're not just like throwing stuff like in our closet on eBay, but our photos show that,
But, we're going to do this experiment. So there's 2 parts of this experiment. Number 1 is, can we list on just eBay and no template, and do people care?
Right.
And we're going to do that on both stores.
Right.
And the second part of the experiment is having a second store.
Yes.
Can we bulk up a second store where we have 2 stores with thousands of items?
Right.
And can we make the same amount of money on both stores? And
instead of plateauing on one store, you're like doing great on both stores.
So Ryan this week was going back and forth. She would list some on our store,
our
and
main
then
store.
some on this experiment store,
right?
And
I will say, within the first day, I sold 3 things on the new store. But then I'm like, then there's the question, like, if I had listed them on my store, my main store, would they just have sold too? I don't know, probably.
So in our main store, you listed 36 items.
Okay.
So in the second store, you listed 159 items.
That's a lot.
In 1 week. I mean,
it was really fast.
And so we sold 4 items for $110.
Okay.
I mean, if we were brand new,
right,
and this was our only store, that's not a lot of money. It's like $110 in a week. Like, wait a second.
But you just, like, in theory, you just started your store.
And so really,
that's good.
That's kind of our experiment too, is to help its new people be like, we're starting a new store just like anybody else is. We have limits on our store.
Yep, I have limits on my PayPal account.
PayPal holds the money, and we have limits of how much we can actually put up there. But our goal is to get from a 0, which we started at the beginning of the week, and let's see how fast we can get up to 1,000 items.
Right, exactly.
So we're up to 115 items in 1 week.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It helps that there is 2 of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Those of you who work alone, wolves out there, our heart goes out to you. There are more barriers for you, but it's all possible.
Right.
But for those of you that have a partner or could get a partner, I mean, you can list pretty quick if one person's doing the photos and writing the titles and one person is
listing.
So we can do this.
So this is one thing I want to mention, though. Because my PayPal account, it's not a new PayPal account. I've had it since like 2008. It's just a different account. But there are limits for selling on eBay. They make it so that you have a max 21-day limit on getting your money. If the item is delivered and you get positive feedback, or one or the other, then you get your money, which really sucks. You're like, oh, I made $100, don't have access to any of it.
But I think people forget, though, is that if you're a brand new person who has never sold on eBay, which eBay thinks a second store is, they don't know us from anything. They don't know if we're selling counterfeit stuff, if we're not shipping, we're sending people empty boxes. I mean, we need to prove to eBay and PayPal that we're following through with what we're saying we're going to do. And that's a good thing, is they then tell us if you sell X amount.
That's what I was going to go into. So I actually called PayPal because I was like, what do I have to do to lift this limit? Because I couldn't find any information online of, like, the numbers. Like, do I have to be whatever? So they said you have to, in the first 90 days of becoming a seller, like starting to sell, you have to sell at least $250 worth of stuff, have at least 25 transactions. So as long as those things are happening, you can call eBay. It's not PayPal that puts the limits on, it's eBay. You can call eBay and get those limits lifted. The other thing too was within a week, they upped my selling limit from 300 items to 570. Which makes sense because I bought a store to list at least 500 items. So you'd think that they're like, oh, yeah, we need to up this store. So that limit got lifted automatically.
Or the amount of $15,000, right?
$15,000. Yeah.
It's the amount of the items in the store can't be worth
more than that.
$15,000.
Right. So they do incrementally. And you can call, I think, eventually and, start getting those limits lifted. But so hopefully my PayPal limits will get lifted soon and I'll be like a trusted seller, but that takes time, you know, to get those transactions. Yeah.
So for those of you, it's new, like we're starting over from scratch. And so we hear what people are talking about with the new, but really, you just got to go through it.
You just have to list stuff and get sales.
We could not depend on this income from this one store, but we know we're investing in the future. So you just have to really put all that work up front. So, and just because it's going to be exciting. I mean, if we could really get 2 stores going that are equally bulked up. Yeah. I mean, what if we could double our income?
I would love to do that. Yeah. I hope that that's true. The only thing that's a little bit hard is I don't know when I have sales unless I check my email because my phone is signed into my main account. So it's not as exciting because you don't hear the cha-ching. You just have to be like, oh, we sold something. And I know that because I just checked my email,
I mean,
you know?
I know it sounds crazy, but like, we have a service called Ting.
Yeah.
And they let you put multiple phones on one account.
It's true.
It would be $6 extra a month
to have a phone.
All the phones just go into one pot as far as...
Right.
So if you didn't use the phone a lot...
Right.
It would only cost you $6 a month.
And we have an extra phone because we have phones for Europe. Well, what I could do is I could grab one of those phones and just keep it on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you could.
And not even get a SIM card for it.
You could.
Well, what I did was we have an iPad. We have lots of Apple products. We have an iPad that I signed into that account,
right.
So that does go off.
I guess I'm just thinking like... We like to keep up with things
and like
when
message people and
traveling and when we're driving in cars. I mean,
that's true.
It wouldn't be the worst thing.
That's a good point.
So anyway, because of someone's random anonymous comment, we listen to people if ideas make sense.
Yeah, I was like, that's a cool idea, like a side store.
And that was like a little seed, and we're going to water that seed and plant it, and it could affect our business.
Yeah, right? No, that was... that's what I love about the blog commenters, because I just never would have even thought of doing that. And someone mentioned it, and I'm like, that is a cool idea. I am going to do that. So... We are trying it.
Just in case someone's hearing this and they're like, maybe I'll start a second store. I don't think it's really worth it unless you already have a store that has a lot of items on it. Yeah,
you don't want to dilute.
I think you would want several thousand items at least in one. Or just when you feel like maybe if your store is not... The profits don't grow as if you put stuff in it. I think if you only have a store with like 300 items, I don't think
just
it's
keep
really
working
worth.
On that store. Yeah.
So we're doing an experiment to see if we can solve a very specific problem.
Yeah. So far it's been fun. I've been having fun and I've learned a lot actually.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention too that this spring we really haven't been buying that much. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I
feel great about it because we have so much stuff we have to list on the front porch.
I mean, we still scavenge. When we go into town, and we talked about it last week, we went and bought a bunch of stuff. But, in the old days, when we were starting out, or for a while there, we were buying 3-4 times a week.
And every weekend.
Going to an auction on a weekend, going to flea markets on Saturdays. Yeah. And really, we've gotten to the point where we've accumulated so much inventory. I have bins of unlisted inventory. If you have folders of stuff that I've taken pictures of, like 30 folders or something.
It's less than that, but
really?
Yeah,
okay,
I would say it's less than that. I can count it right now.
So, I mean, the other good thing is, for those of you who complain about not being able to find inventory, what works for us is we understand when we go places, sometimes we don't find stuff, but when we find the places that do have stuff, we go all in.
Yeah.
If we find like that honey pot, that like place that's
not been shopped,
we will buy everything we can. We will fill up our car. I'll go back twice if I have to.
Yeah.
Because I've learned by now that won't happen all the time.
Right.
Like when you have it good, you got to go all in. And that's why we have so much inventory now, is because we found a lot of those and we've kind of been building it up. So
that's why we have 800 bottles of nail polish. Yeah. I mean, it's true. When you find those things, you have to just be like, it's so cheap. I mean, hopefully that's why you think it's a good deal, because it's so cheap. You're like, I just have to get it. I just have to get it all,
But, we still go out scavenging. At least it's once a week. It's just not as intense. And like I said before, we mainly just do that because it keeps us interested. We've got to mix it up.
Right. It's fun.
I start feeling that. Like I start feeling that. I start shaking. I'm like
shaking.
I need to go
withdrawal.
I need to go out and do some scavenging.
So I did count my folders. It's 18 folders of stuff.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's because I've been listening like crazy.
And then so it's 18 folders of 20 to 40 items in each, with all the photographs and all the and again what happens is we use Google Drive, so we'll open up a Google Doc, or I will list the items as I take a picture. I'll put a title,
Yep.
measurements, any flaws.
Yep.
And then it's a shared folder. And then Ryan, whenever she wants, she can pull that folder and then copy and paste.
It's great. There. It's really awesome, actually.
And that's evolved for us. We learned that from Mikey and Wendy, actually, because we were doing it on...
It was Libby and Tristan, actually.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. They did Google Docs. Yeah.
Yep. Because we were doing it all with just like notebooks.
Oh my God! And I remember actually Mikey and Wendy. Oh, they were using they were using text documents in like Dropbox, but that's true. And they were like, notebooks? You're crazy. And now I'm like, oh my God! I can't believe we were doing it in note. But that's just what worked at the time, you know.
But we're always willing to change, and that's what we talked about. Last week is, you gotta always be improving and changing to get more efficient.
Yeah.
And just roll it with like a new abilities.
Just learn a new system and get it to work. If it doesn't work, don't use it.
Right.
But the Google Docs really work great.
And this past week we had sold a backpack.
Yes.
And it was kind of a bit of a drama in our house because we can normally find any item. It's 4,000 items up on eBay. We could only find any item within a minute. We just know...
Oh, a minute, 5 minutes max. If it's 5 minutes, it's misplaced.
I mean, normally we find it in like a second because we know exactly where it is. But we had this backpack that we could not find.
Yeah, and I actually told the story on the last video. One of the videos. So the thing was this. This was really weird. We bought this backpack, and we looked in all the places that a backpack would be. There's one place that it should be, but we looked in these other places, like, did we put it here? Did we decide to keep it and list it at the same time? And if it sold, whatever. We almost never, ever do that. We could not find it. And
we almost were about to just write it off as,
But here was the thing. We looked at the folder it was listed in, and we noticed that the other backpacks that we had photographed with it and listed with it, we also couldn't find those. So we thought, where's that box? Like, we've misplaced a box of backpacks. And what was so funny is we're looking in this storage shed that we have, and we're looking, and finally you looked at this other bin that was on the other side with a bunch of fabric, and actually a bunch of fabric had previously been in that bin. So my mind automatically said, those bins that are blue have fabric in them, right. But the label on the front said bags.
Yeah. So
it was like.
So a moral of the story is we eventually found it, but that's also an issue of our inventory. Really expanded over the past 12 months, and we're a little less connected to everything because we have a lot of stuff.
We have a lot of stuff, so
it worked out.
No, it worked out. I think it's part of one of those things where if you're getting too big, you need to reorganize and consolidate, because to me that says backpacks need to get reorganized and bags need to be all together instead of like separated by 10 bins, you know. That was like bad.
Yeah. And then the other thing we did this week, or at least I did, was a neighbor across the street was cutting down a bunch of trees.
Which is like when Jay hears that sound, he's driving the truck by.
He's like clearing off a piece of land that he's going to turn into like a little picnic area. Like, all right,
he's making like another yard, basically.
Right. And so me and my friend went over and we spent 4 or 5 hours cutting wood.
Yeah, so usually when you get trees cut down, most guys around here will automatically cut it into firewood, like 18-inch pieces. These guys didn't do that, so you and your friend had to do that.
Right, well, normally what happens is the way we get a lot of our wood is, some homeowner will hire a company to cut a tree down, and that tree company will automatically cut it up in pieces so it can get hauled away. And the homeowner, instead of paying someone to haul it away, will put it on Craigslist and say
firewood,
free wood.
Yeah.
And so I'll just pull up, and it's already like cut up.
It's not split.
It's not split, but it's cut up. And I do. This guy was like, "There's a bunch of trees. Go and cut them down and cut them up."
Yeah.
So.
Well, you didn't cut them down.
We cut down one tree.
Oh, you did.
And then 3 he had already cut down.
Okay.
But it was a big mess. Anyway, my point is this: is just like nothing is better than free anything. And,
free wood is amazing.
It was a pretty I forget, it's summer. It feels like summertime now. It was like 90. It was really hot. I was really...
Humidity.
I was super exhausted, but we got 4 truckloads of wood. I mean, I got 4 truckloads of wood for it myself.
Yeah.
Hardwood and...
maple.
It was great.
Oh, man. Like, it was so funny when you said this guy was cutting trees down, because I was like... Oh man, you are gonna work so hard.
And
like, I just know it.
It's my friend that helped me. He wasn't really impressed because, I mean, he burns wood too. He's like, I really kind of pushed him. I was like, there's all this wood here. Like, why should we stop? Like, let's work until it's all gone.
All gone, yeah.
He's like, I got plenty. I'm like, I'm saving up. We have enough wood for the winter time.
And another winter.
We probably have wood for 2 winters now. I'm like, let's just keep
piling it in. It's free.
Right
it's
there,
just sitting right there.
I spend half a day doing that, and that will keep us heated for 3-4 months. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I think. Where does he get his wood normally?
He goes into the forest. We have a national forest here, and
you can get a permit. Yeah,
he's got his own thing, and
yeah,
I'm just. But
that's funny.
I guess just as a scavenger, I'm like, I can't let go of something that's just sitting there.
And there are neighbors across the street.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you drove 2 hours. It's like this guy's right across the street. So you were so exhausted that you came into the house and you're like on your computer. And I started I was like cleaning dishes and stuff. And I turn around and you're asleep.
Yeah.
I knew it. I was like, you're going to come, you're going to sit on the couch and you're going to be dead.
I'm just computer guy that's I'm like, man, people that have to do manual labor day in, day out, they should get paid $1 million.
It is hard work. It is.
Okay, so the other thing we did this week is...
the rental property.
Our rental property. Our vacation is rental. And this week, we booked it 6 of 7 nights, which is that's our dream.
Yeah, that's the best.
And last week, we talked about how we're having this problem of renting weekdays.
Yeah. People
want a weekend,
right? But
the weekdays are more difficult to rent.
Yeah, even in the summer, it seems.
Yeah. But what happened was we got a minute guy who said, "Can I rent for 2 nights?" And we were like, "Sure."
Yeah, and actually what was really great was he extended it to a 3rd night.
Because I tried to upsell him, because he was like, we have to go to the airport the next day. I might just go into town and rent a hotel.
At the airport.
And so we gave him a deal if he stayed an extra night.
Yeah, we were like... because we'll do less money.
It's for us. I would rather keep it filled, and he took it and gave us a good feedback, and it was great.
Yeah, it was nice. Was interesting, and I was actually talking to my mom about this on the phone because I was like, "Oh, eBay's so slow." She was like, "Well, but that's good because if eBay's slow in the summer, your rental business, I mean, if people vacation in the summer, so it's like." I think the opposite.
I mean, I think it's mentioned this before, but I think it's really hitting home now. Yeah, that eBay is really good in the winter time.
Yeah,
because
holidays.
It's Christmas, holidays. Yeah. eBay is going crazy. Everyone loves it, and then right now, the spring and summertime, it slows down. But the cool thing about the rental, it's the exact opposite.
Right.
In the spring and summertime, everyone is renting, going on vacation, and not buying on eBay. And then the wintertime, at least for us, it's very slow. People don't really go on vacation in our area. So it's good we have 2 businesses that are kind of like the exact opposite of each other.
It's like yin and yang. It's like, ebbs and flows at different times. So that's actually kind of great.
Actually, so this week we made over $1,000 on our rental. So
that's really good.
Almost $1,200.
Yeah. So, God, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
I think that's why, when we have a slow week like this, I'm like, okay, I don't feel as nervous because we have a lot of bookings, and that makes me feel better about, balancing out our income this week, this month.
So, but next week, or it's this coming week because it's a Sunday now, I mean, our rental is only booked, I think, 2 of the 7 nights. So we have a huge...
Yeah.
We have a huge hole in the beginning of our week. So... again, this is going to be an ongoing issue that we have to try and figure out, and we're trying to think of it's different experiments. is lowering the price, putting on Craigslist. I mean, we're trying to figure out if there's a way to encourage people to, come.
I think lowering the price is always good, but then it's hard because if we have a 2-night minimum, so if it's just 2 nights and you've lowered the price, like to clean the whole house for that is kind of like,
But it's also the thing of like a sale on eBay.
Right.
I don't know if that guy is last week rented from us because it was on sale. Because
we lowered the price.
Or just because he would have rented it
anyway. Because he wanted to be in the area.
So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's tough. I guess we could just ask people. That's the different thing between eBay. Well, you could ask people on eBay.
True.
At the rental house, you could just say, was the price right or was it the timing, in the area?
Oh, and then one last thing about the rental. We had our first trash shelf make a booking for our rentals.
Yes, so someone who listens to the podcast messaged us, and he was like, he rented in the middle of the week, right?
He said, I'm a trash shelf.
Yes, he did.
Can I get a discount? I said, of course.
Of course.
So we cut him a deal, and he's going to stay with him and his family for
in July, I think.
4 days.
Yeah.
It's 4 nights, so it's cool. We're happy. We're excited.
And we're probably going to have dinner with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally not part of the deal, or it doesn't have to be, but, we love to sit and talk with people if that's what they want.
I think that's going to be fun.
So that's cool.
So, customer issues. Now, customer issues are always tough on a slow week because it feels like doubly
when
crappy.
Things don't sell so much, I mean, every single complaint, return, issue feels like 1,000, and you get really painful, and we actually get kind of mad at each other when they happen because
it just sucks.
So because we were gone for 10 days, we came back and shipped with 50
items, about 50.
And what always happens is then we get kind of a wave of
returns.
It returns because our its return rate's like 2 to 4 percent, so 2 to 4 out of 100.
Yeah.
No matter what, it just happens. It's just people just change their mind, whatever.
It doesn't fit, whatever.
So we had about 3 and maybe even 4 people write to us and say they were going to return items that we had sent in that big batch.
So it just sucks when it happens all at once.
And
but the issue is that 2 of them were kind of our fault, we think. One, this woman said that the fabric we sold as wool was not wool. I have more information about that one though.
Go for it.
So the reason she found out it wasn't wool is she washed it in boiling hot water because she wanted to felt it for whatever craft purpose. And so the problem is when she returned it, you could tell it had been washed and the edges were all frayed and messed up. And I just thought, this does not seem fair to me that I have to refund this person or fully refund them because they ruined the fabric. So I called eBay, and their solution was that they'll open a case, decide in the buyer's favor, refund them, and then appeal the case and refund me. So I'm not quite sure how I can see that trail of evidence. I saw the case was open and the case was closed in the buyer's favor. She said I wouldn't get a defect, and she said I'd be protected eBay of the feedback. So eBay's taking So that's what she said. I'll probably call and check on that.
Now, in that case, I'm kind of like, it's cool if we can get eBay to refund us, that's great. But honestly, it's their own fault. If it's not wool, which it doesn't seem like it is, then
it's our fault.
She had every right to,
But I just wish she hadn't have ruined it and returned it. But
that was our fault. Normally we're better at that, but it must have been a big pile.
So the other one was a belt that this woman said wasn't measured properly. She hasn't returned it yet, so I can't actually see if it's measured improperly or whatever. So we'll see when that happens. She said she opened a return case and everything, but
if we did not do it right, then we will because she's returning it for item not described.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'll have to eat that if that's true.
So there were 2 items. This is really random and weird.
This one caused a lot of stress in our house.
These are 2 items. Okay, first item I sold was a hat, and it was the brand was Country Gentleman. It's a linen newsboy hat. So I went down to storage and I picked it out and I was like, this is a Country Gentleman linen newsboy hat that looks nothing like the photo. So I'm looking at the photo and I'm looking at this hat and I'm like, I must have sent someone the wrong hat whenever, and they never said anything because I must have had 2 linen Country Gentleman hats that were different, but similar enough that I sent the person the wrong hat. So I looked up when I sold this other hat. It was 3 years ago. So I've had both of these hats for 3 years that I switched. So that sucks because I'm like, now I have to write to my customer, say, do you want this hat? It's almost the same, but it's different. He didn't want it.
Right.
I said, do you want any other hats instead? I'll gladly give you any. Nope, didn't want it.
Yep.
So I had to cancel it, which sucks.
And that's painful on days when, like, we made like $60 and we're like, oh.
And one of them's a $30 hat.
$30.
So that sucked. So whatever, I relisted that hat that I actually had. Like, I had the photos for it. I relisted it as the proper hat. Okay, took 3 years to figure out that mistake. The second mistake, very similar. I sold a pair of boots for like $50. I went downstairs, pulled the boots, and looked at them, and they were both right-sided boots. And I'm like, what? Then I looked on the photos, and I'm like, but the photos show them correctly. So I went through my archive of emails and I said, somebody, it was 3 years ago also, said, you sent me 2 left boots. And one of them looks like a different boot, like it's a different brand, but it looks similar, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I sent him the left boot of this other one. But the crazy thing is, I never went into the inventory and looked to see if I had similar boots and asked him to send one back. Right. I don't know why. Yeah. Someone got 2 left boots 3 years ago. Now someone's about to get 2 right boots 3 years later. So I was like, I got to cancel this transaction.
So basically, we lost its money on the first sale. And
we lost money on the second sale.
So that's sometimes, it's just funny that both the hat and the boot problem happened in the same week when we felt it the most, when we were really hungry for those sales. But I mean, that just sometimes happens when you start having a large inventory, things like that.
And
happen. It sucks.
Usually they're not as close together. That's what's weird. Yeah. So that sucked.
Because that doesn't happen to us very often. So
yeah, so that was weird.
It's just the way it is. Okay, so a little bit of news. And again, these links we're about to talk about, we are going to put onto the blog.
Yeah.
At scavengerlife.com. And you can just go there and... you can click through and see the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a video and an article about a UPS sorting headquarters in Kentucky. Now, we don't use a UPS.
Right.
But it's interesting to actually see how it all works.
I don't think there's a video. It's just a photo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of photos, but they're fascinating. And what's interesting is after you sent me this link of UPS, I looked up FedEx's hub, because we do actually use FedEx. And they have a similar hub in Tennessee. So it's cool to see both of them are very similar. Their setups are just massive. I mean, this airport, it's like, for a UPS, it's Louisville, Kentucky. They have this tiny little, like, international airport, and UPS is, like, 5 times bigger than the airport. Like, right. It's just UPS.
And, it's interesting because, this is how mail works now.
Right.
All these planes flying to one place, unload. They have these machines that sort through everything. Stuff. It's like thousands of items a minute.
Yeah.
And then they get placed on new planes and then got sent to our house.
It's 7,000 packages a minute.
I think it's just interesting to educate ourselves about this. So when something is slow, like some item doesn't get to someone on the exact day or something gets misplaced, I'm like, imagine what it had to go through, and the fact that this only happens once every so often.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's amazing. I mean, I would love to see how the post office sorts things, too, because they don't have a central thing, but they have, like, different sorting places in each state, several in each state. And it's fascinating. When I ship something to Los Angeles, it's there in 2 days.
I mean, it's incredible. I'm so happy,
Yeah, I love
I'm grateful.
Stuff. I mean, I'm a shipping nerd, so when I see stuff like this, I'm like, that is so cool.
Okay, I'm also going to link to the post office is upping their prices
today.
Again, it seems like it happens it's once a year.
Yeah.
The American post office is always struggling with the money and deficits, and people can start talking about politics if they want. But I love the post office, and if we had to depend on a FedEx or a UPS, everyone's prices would just be through the roof. So anyway, I'm happy for them.
Yeah, so the changes are just for parcel, first class, and media mail, and all international ones. But
there's no changes.
No changes to priority, which I think a lot of us use priority primarily. Right. Like 80% of my packages go priority.
And basically, it's about 5 to 8% a rise.
Yeah. So, that's normal. The good thing is you do get your discount through eBay, so that's very helpful to kind of offset some of these things. And if you don't do free shipping, I mean, this is just the price people have to pay to ship stuff across the country or wherever, and that's just how it goes.
The other thing is, and I've got to say this, so we changed our phone service to Ting.
Ting, T-I-N-G.
Yeah, it's just like one of these like smaller phone service that basically they buy bandwidth
from Sprint,
and every company, AT&T has these smaller companies and then they repackage it and sell it. We've talked this before, how we went from paying $200 a month for 2 phones, we pay $50 a month for 2 phones, and we use our phones like crazy.
Yeah.
So it would be even cheaper for people that don't use their phone as much as we do. Anyway, they have a special deal between now and June 8th. So then next week, if you sign up through our referral link, you'll get $100 towards either it's your next phone bill, or if you want to buy a brand new phone, that $100 would go there.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually.
I mean, and so if you're just a single person, if you might only spend $25 a month on
that could be bill. 4 months of phone bill right there.
So if you've been thinking about trying to change your phone a service, now it might be a good time. We love Ting because there's no contracts.
Yeah,
you can sign up, try it out, cancel it. And I'm going to link to the compatibility link where
you can see if your phone works with their service.
Yeah, so it's got to be a phone that will work on their service.
On their network. Yeah.
Or you can always buy a brand new phone too.
And what's cool is you can buy a used phone. Right. We bought used iPhone 5s for cheap. You don't have to buy a brand new iPhone, so that's great.
And then I found this really interesting article on the Washington Post talking about the economy in general. Everyone knows, like, when you read the paper, there's all these articles about the economy, and economists are just like, I feel like they just kind of make stuff up. Like, they don't know, like any of us. But they look at its numbers, which is always good, and they're like, things are really slow right now. They thought that when gas prices went down so low, that people would have extra money in their pocket and that they would go out and buy a bunch of stuff. But they've actually seen that people aren't really buying a lot of things. So it's not just like they're buying things on eBay.
They aren't buying anything.
They're buying things in general. And so economists are like thinking, maybe, the 2008 crash and all the ups and downs that have been happening and people not being employed, that Americans are starting to learn to be more thrifty. That people are, like maybe what all of us do about being scavengers
is starting to become normal.
Not spending more. It's money that's becoming a normal thing.
Yep. Well, Mr. Money Mustache was tweeting this link out a few times the other day, and he was just like, I think economists are confused that people are becoming smarter about money. They're not just like, oh, I have $100 extra bucks, let's spend it. They're like, maybe I'll save it.
Or maybe I'll pay off debt or save it or something. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we want people to buy a bunch of stuff, but at the same time, I don't want people to buy things they don't need. So,
Or we do want people to buy used stuff.
Yeah, or
antique stuff.
That's why we always try and find things for a store that seem interesting that people are buying because it's special, you know.
Right.
So when they do make a purchase, they're buying something that means something.
Well, I think also like economists and like, you know, economic studies don't always factor in like the secondhand market, which is what we live in, is the secondhand market. They're you know, taking metrics from big box stores, from Walmart, from whatever, you know, like, so they're not seeing this like secondary economy a lot of times, although they might measure eBay. I'm not sure. So that's an interesting metric that I think is missing. So
the last thing we want to talk about in our news part of this is we had somebody, a scavenger, who listened to our podcast. He's going to try and do a meetup in
Seattle area.
Seattle.
Yeah.
So we're going to play his kind of announcement.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. Dan Matson here from Seattle, Washington area. Hey, I appreciate you guys letting me do this. I want to make an announcement that I'm going to organize a scavenger meetup in the Seattle area. And so the details are, it's actually going to be in Everett, Washington, which is north of Seattle, on July 15th, which is a Wednesday, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Denny's at 2903 Pacific Avenue in Everett, Washington. Anybody's welcome that's selling online or is a scavenger or doing a combination of things, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, Bonanza, whatever it is, Craigslist. And so we'll spend an hour and a half together, do some brief introductions. Like for each person, if they could, to bring one idea for scavenging or selling that would help somebody else in the group. We'll mingle and have some fun. Again, my name is Dan Matson. You can contact me at woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Again, that's woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Or you can call me on my cell phone at 425-319-7800. Please let me know if you are able to attend on July 15th. And if for some reason you're not able to attend, if you're interested in future meetings or just hooking up, please contact me anyway. So again, July 15th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. in Everett, Washington at Denny's, 2903 Pacific Avenue. Email woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Cell phone 425-319-7800. And I hope to see a bunch of people there. All right. Thanks, Jay and Ryan. I appreciate it. Take care.
And so we will put his email, his phone number, and he's asking for people to email or call him. It's before, so he knows how many people will show up.
Yeah, so he has a good idea.
And someone tried to do this in Michigan, and he said a bunch of people were interested, but only one person came.
That's not. We've had that happen for other meetups.
We've done meetups for other kinds of like hobbies, tech stuff we've been involved in. But you know, people get either busy or they get nervous when they actually think about having to meet people. So people, come on, don't be shy.
It should be fun. I think that sounds really fun, and I would love it if he took a photo and sent it to us, or made a little video. That would be cool.
Okay, things we learned in the comments. It's this week. It was a good week for comments. We always like to get down and dirty with people. Amber, she wrote about RSS feeds on eBay stores, and I always get confused. I feel like this is like when eBay is weird, where some things work for stores, some things don't. Some things are for its new stores or its old stores. So she says there's RSS feeds, and I'll put a link on her blog that you can go and turn them on.
Right.
Like, I noticed ours were turned off, so I turned them back on.
Yeah, I think ours got turned off when we changed to the new store, because I think it's only for the old store.
Well, I turned it on anyway.
Yeah.
Just to see, but the RSS feed will then help other sites index,
aggregate your information.
So
it's one of those things where we're not sure if it's an antiquated technology at this point for eBay. So
I feel like eBay needs to do a lot of gardening. Like they need to go in there and just like figure out what part of the site still works and what site is no longer
omniture
useful.
Yeah.
The other thing is Steve Schultz said that he got a message from eBay that they quote-unquote cleaned one of his photos so it had a pure white background.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like, it sounds like he says it's a service that they're trying out where, and I hope this is opt-in, where, they're going to, like, make the background white, so just the item itself, so it looks more like a
catalog
or something. Yeah,
which I've seen on other sites. Like, I think Amazon wants you to just have a white background, and like,
but
I don't know.
I feel like it's a very specific style, and I personally would not want that. I like when our photos are in a natural a setting, and actually, it's when I buy things, I like to actually see the item I'm going to buy. Sometimes people will link to just like a catalog image. And I'm like, but that's not the one I'm buying.
I want to see the one I'm buying.
I want to see the one I'm buying.
I find that people on Craigslist do that all the time. If you want an IKEA couch, they like link to the IKEA couch. And you're like, well, what does yours look like? Because it doesn't look like the one that's brand new.
It could have stains and marks and all that stuff.
You want to see that. So
I don't know. I think that's interesting, and again, I hope that that doesn't become a thing that people have to do.
Well, what was interesting is this morning I was looking at a bunch of stuff on eBay, of course, and I saw this guy had an inkwell from the 1800s. It had this gorgeous hand carved, like actual museum quality carved cameo on top of it, a shell cameo, and it was $6,000.
Right.
But the freaking hilarious thing was, he was just taking the photos on his desk at his computer because I could see his keyboard in the background. Like, it was just so funny. It's like, this piece belongs in a museum, and yet here it is, just on someone's desk.
But at the same time, he took good photos, and you got to actually see that's what the item looks like.
Yeah, like, this is the real item you're getting.
It's not anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was just interesting, and that's again why we love eBay, because it can be that casual.
Right.
Sometimes it becomes, and there's a difference between being casual about it or natural about it,
and being lazy,
being like lazy and like not being able to focus or not being able to turn lights on or sit by a window.
Yeah,
there are its differences.
Right.
But I like how that's what eBay style is, whereas Amazon's all about the catalog image. It's got to look like a catalog image, and everyone shares the same photo and all that stuff. I don't know. It's a different mentality. Okay, so what will our coming week be like, Rodney?
Well, I'm going to continue to list on my new store and my main store.
So if you're no longer a listing with a template, how many things do you think that you can list every week?
Well, if I can list 50 things a day.
So like 200 items a week?
Yeah, I guess that'd be
great.
200 items a week. Oh my God. I got through so many folders this week. Yesterday, I listed in the morning, and then we kind of took a break and had dinner, and you took a really long nap. So I was like in my office, and I was like, I'm just going to list. I just want to finish these folders. So I was just like, it felt very casual. I mean, part of it is I wasn't doing as much research because it was basic items that I already knew, I knew how much I wanted to sell it for. So that makes it a lot faster when you're not like, what is this? How much should I sell it for? Doing all the research. So, I mean, it is possible to list that many items. So I'm going to try. We do have to do a house flip. So, but there's only one right now. So.
Interesting. Well, that's amazing,
Yeah, I can't believe how much faster it is.
Yeah.
Listing did not take very long before, but the fact that this cuts out a few minutes, that's a lot of time.
So I will be taking photos of shoes.
Yes.
I still probably have another week or maybe even 2 of cleaning and photographing and
women's shoes.
Titles of shoes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my week.
Yeah.
So I'll actually be over in our
office together
with you.
Oh.
If that's okay with you.
Oh.
We'll have to hear the same radio.
Well, the good thing is the office has the AC unit.
Yeah.
So it's getting pretty humid out and kind of hot, so it helps to have that.
So that'll be our coming week.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad to me. Okay, let's listen to some voicemails. And remember, you can call us to leave a voicemail. You have 3 minutes to leave a voicemail of a question or comment. The phone number is 540-407-8486, and it is just a voicemail number we do not pick up.
Yes, I have a question about how a person would go about using this as a business. I was listening to your podcast, and then you got to the point about taxes, and I just was wondering how you go about showing it as a business. What do you do? Set up an LLC, or what is it? I sell quite a bit on eBay. I have 2 accounts, so I'm just kind of getting big on it this year. So I'd appreciate a comment. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so I mean, again, this is a very common question. People are like, I want to start an eBay business.
Yeah,
and then they start thinking about it, and they're like, wait a second, what about paying taxes and LLCs, and I got to get a CEO, and I got to,
CEO.
So anyway, people start making it too complicated. We say business because whatever, it's just kind of a general term.
Right.
But it could just be income. That's all it is. So you can just sell on eBay and just declare as personal income.
Right.
Just like if you sold anything, you have to declare that. And what it is if you sell over $20,000 on eBay, PayPal will then notify the IRS that that's what happened.
Right. They send you a 1099.
And so all we've done is we don't have an LLC or C Corp or any of that stuff. We just have an accountant, and we've worked it out where we have a general partnership.
Right.
And we, take expenses from that, our shipping and traveling costs and all that stuff, inventory costs, and then we split the money among us, between the 2 of us, as personal income, and then just pay taxes on that.
So, if you're just one person, though, the equivalent of a general partnership, which is 2 or more people, would be a sole proprietorship. So that's the same thing, only, you're just one person.
Yeah, or you could do it easy and just PayPal will send you, what is it, a 1099?
Yeah.
And they just send you 1099 of all the money that you made on PayPal. You can then just take it, your own expenses on as your own personal thing, and not even have any kind of business entity or name or anything like that.
That being said, we are just people on the internet.
Right.
So you need to have an accountant where you can sit down with them and say, what's your advice for me?
Right.
How should we do our taxes next year?
Yeah.
We're telling you what we do.
If you're really thinking about doing this more than just like a little hobby, you should definitely get an accountant. That's what any person that's starting any kind of business, whether it be a bakery or whatever. Anything,
So go find a local CPA that deals with small businesses.
We always just like to answer questions like this because the way it's being asked is, I feel like people are putting barriers in front of them. Like, I want to sell on eBay, but there's all this complicated tax stuff I got to do. It doesn't have to be complicated, I guess is our point.
Especially if you have an accountant to help guide you.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Alex. I am a top-rated seller, and I also have the 20% restocking fee on all my listings. And my question is is there a difference on when they give you your 20% back or not? For example, I sold a charm, which is a taper charm. It has connectors on each side, and you have a bracelet with connectors. So when you connect the bracelet to the charm is in the center, and that completes the bracelet. I gave all the measurements on the listing, and the woman said it didn't fit, and she sent it back. eBay did not refund my 20% restocking fee on that one. And is that normal if it doesn't fit, or should I have received the 20% restocking fee, or should I have fought that? I'm not sure what the rules are for the 20% restocking fee, because I have received it on other things when people have changed their mind or whatever. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that. Have you had this happen, and how did you handle it? Thank you so much. I love your podcast. Bye-bye.
So when someone sends an item, if the buyer has changed their mind because the item doesn't fit or they got a better price or whatever, that isn't your fault, you should get that 20% restocking fee back. I'm not sure
but
why.
If they send it back because item not described, then they're saying it's your fault,
right?
And then you have to pay for the shipping, and there's no restocking fee because you've made an error.
So what she said is this buyer said it didn't fit, so she should have gotten her 20% restocking fee.
But she said it didn't fit, but it could be it didn't fit because it wasn't told to her to be the right size. I mean,
right. So
there are different ways.
This is what I'm saying. What was the reason she opened the case for? Right. The return case.
Right.
And so, that determines the 20% restocking fee.
Thank you very much.
But she said here in her voicemail that she said the lady said it didn't fit. But what was the case?
But we had someone that said the belt didn't fit because we didn't size it correctly.
So that's the question.
Right.
What was the case? When you look at the case details, what is the reason? Right. And that will determine it.
And then the other thing we always tell people is, I mean, this is it's questioned, but, we can't tell. You should call eBay.
Yeah.
Like, this is a perfect opportunity to call eBay, and they can explain the details of why.
Right. Why wasn't that restocking fee there? Yeah. Also, you should just make sure that it really is on all your listings. Maybe it wasn't on that listing for some reason.
Could be.
I implemented a 20% restocking fee, but I had to go bulk edit my older listings that didn't have that choice. So that's something you should double check.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Ryan. My name's Dave Nickel. I called before. I live in the Detroit area in Michigan, and you guys helped me out with some advice on a commercial ice cream maker. My question/comment this time is that I spend my summers on the west side of Michigan at an RV resort. We have a large RV that's parked permanently at a resort, and I live there in the summer times. And I just started doing eBay again at the beginning of the year, and I'm quite successful at it, and trying to figure out when I'm up there for 2.5 months solid. My wife's an elementary school principal, so we take the summers off. That's always been part of the deal, and that's something that I enjoy doing, and this helps me do that. But I'm trying to figure out what I can do while I'm up there to still try to be productive. And one thing that I thought is that I will still attend sales, garage sales, flea markets. There's a lot of barn sales out in that way. And I will also spend my time this summer photographing and possibly cleaning the items, and then boxing them up and taking them home in loads. It's about 2.5 hours from our home. So I can't sell my regular inventory because it's in Detroit and I'm on the west side of the state. But I also thought about the possibility of buying and selling things on 7-day auction using flat rate mailers. These are just some ideas I'm throwing out, and I know you travel, and I realistically, I can't change my handling time, and I can't come back and forth and ship. I just can't do it. So any thoughts on what I could do over the summer? I have all the time in the world in the summertime, and or does my plan sound good? Again, thank you so much. I'm trying to model what I do after you, too, and I appreciate everything you do. Thanks. Bye.
So this is a really interesting question, and it could be done in multiple ways. It just really depends on what kind of lifestyle he wants to have.
Right.
I mean, so I could see a couple things happen. Number one is, I'm assuming him and his wife are going to this RV park in probably a beautiful part of the state.
Right.
Just to chill out.
Right.
So why work? I mean, his wife is probably like, I don't want you to work all the time. So yeah, maybe what he would just do is he would just scavenge, because that's a fun thing.
Right.
And he could keep everything in tubs, and when he goes back home, if he does every so often, he could just take that stuff. And then when the Michigan winters come and it's really cold and there aren't yard sales, he could pull those tubs out and work from that. He understands that he could change his handling time, but he says he doesn't want to go back and forth, so he doesn't want to have to drive 2 hours to get to his stuff and ship every 2 weeks. I get that. Right. But you could open a second store.
Yes.
I mean, if you wanted to actually work during the summertime, you could open a second store and photograph and list just like normal.
Little things that...
And just list the stuff that you buy in that little area there.
Right, yeah. You could do that as a traveling store if that's fun for you. Right. If you're like, I want to do stuff, and I'll go scavenge at some yard sales around the area. I have a tub of stuff. I keep it small. It fits in the RV. It all ships in a flat rate envelope,
Yeah.
We've seen Mikey and Wendy do that, you know, they totally do that.
I mean, so this question really all depends on, and that's why we love eBay, it just depends on what kind of lifestyle.
What do you want to do?
You're trying to make.
Exactly.
And then you just have to think through its mechanics of doing that kind of a lifestyle.
Right, exactly.
And that's why eBay's great, because it can handle whatever you want to be doing.
And actually, this could be a time when you could do experiments, too, where you're like, I'm going to scavenge stuff, I'm going to list it, and just do a 7-day auction so that it can move and it's not sitting in my RV for, however long.
Right.
So that can be the experiment. But it just depends on what do you want to do. Do you want to work? Okay, how are you going to work while you're there?
Hello, Ryan and Jay. This is Jay Bird. I called before about a crock pot that the guy paid for, and he didn't pick up. Well, he finally picked it up after a couple of months. But I wanted to ask you about Bonanza. I started selling on Bonanza. I haven't sold anything yet. But I wondered how it works when they sell. Is it basically like eBay to print a shipping label? I guess that's about all I wanted to ask. This is Jay Bird saying happy sales to you until we meet again. Bye.
So the one thing that I will note that I always note about selling on Bonanza is when you sell something on Bonanza, go end it on eBay right away. Just make sure you do that so you're not having something that you already sold sell again and have to cancel it on eBay. The second thing is, yes, it's exactly like eBay. I print out an invoice from Bonanza, but the difference that I do is Bonanza actually charges you some percentage, I forget what it is, to buy a shipping label from them. I just ship through PayPal. Because they pay you through PayPal, you can just go on PayPal and make a shipping label with their address and stuff through that transaction. I just keep it outside of Bonanza, and then I go back on Bonanza and add the tracking number. I'm like, this shipped. It's simple.
Yeah. And the other thing, I mean, again, we learned to sell on this platform because of Chris the Coin Guy. I mean, we learn from other people, and he said, if you're selling on eBay, you might as well just sell on Bonanza because they have a really good tool where it just sucks all your...
It syncs it automatically.
It syncs everything. It doesn't cost you anything unless the item sells. But Chris also said it only makes sense if you have a lot of items.
Right.
Like over 1,000 items.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 4,000 items, and we're lucky if we sell 4 or 5 things a month. So
yeah, it's very low.
If you have a small store, I mean, it's almost not even a worth it. Or,
I mean,
it doesn't cost
free,
anything.
So,
but it's just, I think it's just a good example of like people start putting all this time and energy into trying to sell all over the place when really, I mean, the action is like eBay, or Amazon, but you know, other places just seem like it takes more time than what it's worth.
Yeah, we like to focus on one place, but sometimes those Bonanza sales are nice. They pad out your inventory for the week, pad out your numbers, but they're pretty rare.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's it for It's This Week. Thanks for being with us. This was probably an extra long one. We had a lot to talk about, but
that's okay.
It was good to hang out.
Yes.
You can check everything we talked about. There will be links at scavengerlife.com. You can also go there and join the conversation. People will start commenting. And again, if people have suggestions on how to do things, it's better. Trust me, we're there and we will listen and we'll try it out. And if you have a really kind of dumb, lazy idea, I'll be glad to tell you.
You can also call us and leave a voicemail, a question or a comment. The phone number is 540-407-8486.
And for a while there, I was like linking to I called it a throwback episode, just to link to an old episode for maybe a new people who wanted us to link to like a cool episode that we talked about in the past, since we've done 200 of them. I don't know if people care about that or not. I won't do it if people don't care.
Was it helpful? Is it helpful? We love to know.
We post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on our schedule. Wednesdays is when Ryan will post a what sells a video where you can actually see some of these items that we actually sell. And again, I always got to give a thanks to people that send us donations. We have a little donation button on our blog.
The tip jar.
A little tip jar. We get them. They trickle in. Totally not. It's necessary, but we really appreciate it because, it just helps pay our internet bill or pay our phone bill.
Helps pay the ting bill.
Yeah. That as scavengers, we love just to knock out little tiny bills like that. And if you ever want to take a little vacation in Virginia, in rural Virginia, by the Shenandoah is a national park, you can rent our farmhouse. Perfect for families or couples.
And we'll have dinner with you if you want to have dinner with us. You don't have to want to have
Ryan
dinner
always
with
makes fun of me for saying that.
Because
it's true.
Hilarious.
So, and we do give discounts to trash elves. So.
The trash elf discount.
I will link to our farmhouse on the blog as well. Okay.
And now this podcast is ending in 3, 2, 1, 0.
Bye.